The skies of Veltrian 9 burned blue as the Huntress ships crossed into Earth territory. It was supposed to be a quiet zone, a neutral system shared by no one. But the Huntress Guild from the planet Zerel broke that balance when they invaded silently, like shadows without warning. They weren't looking for war, they were looking for one man. His name was Captain Jace Rylan, a human ex-special ops soldier now marked for elimination by alien law. The strange part was he had never stepped foot on their world, yet his face had appeared on every Zerel bounty screen. No one knew why, not even him. His only mistake had been saving a refugee girl during a pirate ambush. That girl, unknown to him, was the youngest daughter of Zerel's High Priestess. Her escape had triggered a crisis among their elite, and the Council of Blood demanded silence to protect their reputation. Silence meant death for the human who interfered. So they sent her Jayla, the top huntress of her kind. She was tall, lean, and deadly, bred from childhood to hunt down the impossible. Her success rate was absolute. Her targets never saw her twice. Her armor could bend light, her steps were noiseless, and her pulse rifle could pierce bunker-grade walls. But this time, she faced something she never expected. Jace didn't run. He felt her eyes long before he saw her. Something in the air had changed. The wind felt colder. His instincts twitched as he walked through the ruins of the outpost on Daxton 4. His team had been recalled, but he stayed behind, sensing unfinished business. He'd fought many battles before, seen worlds fall and rise, but this time he wasn't dealing with armies or fleets. He was the prey now. He should have hidden, but he didn't. Instead, he brewed coffee near the wrecked beacon tower, acting like bait. His calmness wasn't arrogance, it was experience. He understood traps because he had laid many. He also knew when he was being hunted, and his gut told him the game had already started. Jayla was confused by his behavior. Her sensors showed no panic, no escape plan. Only a lone man sitting beneath a broken tower, sipping from a dented thermos like he had all the time in the galaxy. She circled the ruins 3 times. No drones. No alarms, just him. She couldn't tell if it was a test or a trick. Still, she moved closer. Her orders were clear. Terminate. Disappear. Report success. Easy. But her fingers paused over the trigger. The scan showed something she didn't expect. His heart rate was low, steady, not scared. Then he looked directly at her hiding spot, through shadows, smoke, and mist. And he smiled. That single smile caused her grip to falter. No target had ever smiled at her before. Most never saw her. This one invited her in. It was either madness or challenge, and both were equally dangerous. She stepped out of stealth and faced him under the dying light of the twin suns. Their eyes locked. He didn't raise a weapon. She didn't fire. They stood still, 2 warriors bred from different worlds, staring like ancient rivals reunited. "You're late," he said with a dry chuckle. "I thought bounty hunters were fast." That voice, it wasn't mocking. It was steady, calm, almost amused. Jayla blinked. She had killed generals, pirates, assassins, but no one ever spoke to her like that. "I am not a bounty hunter," she replied coldly. "I am your death." "Then sit," Jace said, patting the rock beside him. "It's been a long trip. Let's talk first." That sentence didn't fit any tactical pattern. Jayla had trained for thousands of alien dialects, threats, psychological breakdowns, but no protocol matched this calm invitation. Still, something inside her moved. She sat. 1 minute passed, then another. Neither of them blinked. No one touched a weapon. The silence said more than words. Jace knew this was not just about him. Something bigger was hidden beneath her mission. "You don't want to kill me," he finally said. "You were told to," Jayla didn't reply. But she didn't deny it either. Her silence was the answer. "Then we're both being hunted," he added softly. "Because I'm not going anywhere. And you're not pulling that trigger yet. Jayla didn't know why she was still sitting next to him. Her fingers itched for the trigger. Her training screamed to act, but her body stayed still. Jace wasn't like the others she had tracked. He had no scent of fear, no desperation. Just calm, dry confidence that unnerved even her hardened nerves. She didn't understand humans deeply, but she had studied them enough to know this one didn't fit the mold. He was dangerous not because of his weapons, but because of his words. The longer he spoke, the harder it became to pull the trigger. Jace handed her a warm protein bar from his ration pack. She stared at it like it was poison. "It's not a trick," he said. "Just food. You've been watching me for 3 days." "You didn't eat either." She took it, more curious than hungry. Her people trained to resist hunger for long hunts. But something about the gesture made her feel seen, and that confused her more than any battlefield could. He spoke slowly, but his words had weight. "I saved a girl," he explained. "Didn't know she was royalty. Didn't ask for thanks, but I won't run for it." Jayla didn't answer. Her mission file said the same, but her instincts had doubted it. Now sitting beside him, she felt something deeper than doubt. She felt truth. "What happens if you fail?" he asked suddenly. That question sliced deeper than expected. Zarelian law was clear. If a Huntress failed her first solo mark, she was dishonored. Execution wasn't always public, but it was certain. Jayla had no backup, no escape. This wasn't just a mission, it was survival. She had to kill him or die trying. "I don't fail," she replied firmly. "You already have," Jace whispered, not as insult, but as fact. He stood up slowly, not reaching for his rifle. Instead, he turned his back and walked toward the ruined structure behind them. It was a strange, exposed move, like he trusted her not to shoot. Or maybe he was just done running. Jayla raised her weapon and locked it on his back. Her HUD blinked green. Perfect shot. All systems aligned. One pull and her mission was over. Her finger tightened. But she hesitated. That hesitation became a war inside her. She couldn't explain it. This wasn't fear. This wasn't mercy. It was something she hadn't felt in years. Choice. Her breathing quickened. Her vision blurred. The targeting reticle flickered. And then she lowered the rifle. Inside the ruin, Jace had lit a small fire. Not for warmth, for light. "You're not the only one the galaxy wants dead," he said without looking at her. "You kill me, they'll just throw you at the next mess." Jayla stepped into the light. Her armor shimmered in deactivated stealth mode. She looked like a phantom stepping out of fog, but her eyes were sharp and questioning. "Why didn't you fight me?" she asked. "Because I've seen enough fighting to know when it's pointless," Jay said. "You didn't come here to kill. You came here because someone told you to." That sentence echoed inside her chest like a drum. She sat across from him again. No weapons drawn now. Just two warriors watching the flames. "So what now?" she asked. Her voice was lower, uncertain. "Now we wait," Jace replied. "If you're not going to kill me, then someone else will come. They always do." Jayla knew he was right. The guild didn't tolerate silence. If a Huntress vanished or delayed, the trackers would follow. They'd send a kill squad. Maybe more. "I should report you dead," she whispered. "I could say I completed the mission." Jace shrugged. "You could. Or you could stay and learn why they want me gone so badly." That idea was poison to her duty, but fire to her mind. She knew her loyalty was slipping. But was it betrayal if the system itself was broken? Her orders made no sense from the beginning. Why kill a man who saved a child? Why silence a rescue instead of honoring it? "They feared what the girl told me," Jay said, reading her face. "Your leaders aren't gods. They're hiding something." She whispered names before I sent her away. Names of traitors, names your people don't want spoken aloud. Jayla flinched, not from fear, but from recognition. The same name she'd heard once before in whispers, before her old mentor disappeared. That was the last time she questioned anything. Jace leaned closer. "You're not here by mistake. They sent you because they feared what you might do if you knew the truth." That hit her like a blade. Suddenly she saw everything differently. She wasn't just a weapon. She was a loose end they wanted erased. Maybe they thought the truth would die with her. But now, sitting across from the one man they feared, she felt something powerful rising inside her: anger, purpose, and a hunger for answers that no order could silence anymore. The fire between them burned low, casting shadows on cracked stone and broken glass. Jayla sat still, but her mind spun with questions she had never dared to ask before. Jace didn't press her. He knew the real war had already started inside her. Not with weapons, with truth. For someone like her, trained from birth to obey and never question, that truth hit harder than any bullet. Her silence stretched long, and he didn't fill it with more words. He gave her time to think, because he knew that was the deadliest thing she could do. When she finally spoke, her voice had changed. No longer cold, no longer flat. It trembled with doubt. "You said she told you names. What names?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into a small case beside him and pulled out a thin metallic cube. He placed it on the ground between them. "It's encoded," he said. "She gave me the access phrase, but I haven't played it since. If what's inside is real, it changes everything." Jayla stared at the cube. Her fingers flexed. She wanted to touch it. But part of her still feared the answers. He tapped the top. The cube hummed and projected a soft blue light. A young Zarelian girl appeared, flickering like a memory. She looked scared, but her voice was strong. "If you're hearing this, I'm already gone," she said. "Mother lied. The council lied. The priesthood is not sacred. They sell the names of our children to slave barons in exchange for technology. I saw the agreements. I stole this cube. Jace saved me. If he dies, it means the truth dies too." Jayla's hands shook as the message ended and the cube fell silent. That voice, it was real, and Jayla recognized it. The girl wasn't just a priest's daughter. She was the Moonburn One of the Blessed. The council had sworn on their blood that she was dead, a ship lost to pirates, they said. No survivors. But that girl was alive when Jace found her, and the cube proved it. Jayla stood slowly, backing away from the fire. Her breath came in short bursts. She didn't care about her mission anymore. She cared about everything that had been stolen. From her honor, her purpose, her belief. Jace watched her carefully. "They'll come for both of us now," he said. "You don't have to stay." She turned to him, eyes blazing. "If I leave, I become a liar like them. If I stay, I become hunted. Either way, I'm marked." He nodded. "Then we run together. Or we fight together." She looked down at her hands, still trembling. Then she reached into her belt and pulled out a small silver triangle, her hunter's badge. Slowly, without words, she tossed it into the fire. It hissed and cracked, melting into ash. She was no longer a huntress. She was something else now. Something dangerous to those in power. "We have to leave this world," she said. "There's a relay station in the mountains. I can send a signal. If we encrypt it, maybe we can reach someone who still believes in justice." Jay stood, slinging his rifle over his shoulder. "Lead the way. I've had enough campfires." They packed fast and left before dawn. No trail, no noise. The night swallowed their footsteps, but the sky burned with red clouds. The Huntress had become the hunted. The journey to the mountain was not easy. Drones scanned the skies. Patrols searched the ruins. Jace moved with quiet precision, disabling motion traps and listening for seismic ticks. Jayla was faster than him, but she waited every time he lagged behind. That simple gesture told him more than words. She was no longer watching him as a target. She was walking beside him like an equal, like someone who finally understood what it meant to choose her path. For the first time, she was not being ordered. She was deciding. They reached the relay tower after 2 days. The building was half collapsed, but the signal core still pulsed with energy. Jayla used her access codes to power the console. "We have one shot," she warned. "Once I open the channel, they'll trace us." Jace didn't hesitate. "Then, we make the message worth the chase." She smiled faintly. It was the first time he saw her smile, not a smirk, a real one. One that reached her eyes. She activated the system. The screen lit up. "Ready to broadcast," she said. "What should I say?" Jace leaned in and stared at the camera. His voice was calm but heavy. "This is Captain Jace Raylan of Earth. I have evidence of war crimes committed by the Zarelian High Council. I was hunted for saving a life. Now I stand with the ones sent to kill me. We are alive, we are speaking, and we will not run anymore." Jayla pressed send. The message flashed across the stars, breaking through encrypted layers, hopping from satellite to satellite. Somewhere in the galaxy, someone was listening. Then the tower lights dimmed. Warning sirens screamed. Jayla's eyes narrowed. "They're here," she said. Jace pulled his rifle and scanned the hills. Gunships cut through the clouds. Tracker droids dropped from above. "We hold them here," Jayla said firmly. "We stop them before they silence us again." Jace stepped beside her, shoulders squared. "You sure about this?" She locked her eyes on his. "I was never more sure of anything in my life." Asterisk. The mountains echoed with the sharp hum of plasma engines as enemy dropships descended through the burning clouds. Jace and Jayla crouched behind jagged stone pillars near the relay tower, their eyes locked on the approaching squad. The message was sent, but it had lit a flare across the stars. The council knew exactly where they were. They had sent not just soldiers, but executioners. These weren't ordinary units. These were elite guild purgers trained to erase traitors and witnesses in absolute silence. Jace loaded his rifle without a word. Jayla checked her blade and activated her shield. This time, she wasn't hunting alone. The first squad landed fast and spread out. Drones hovered above the rocks, scanning for signs of heat or movement. Jace raised a hand, signaling stillness. Jayla nodded. She knew the terrain better. The broken tower's rear held a hidden vent shaft she had seen earlier. If needed, it could be an escape. But neither of them wanted to run now. They had lit the fire. Now they had to hold the line until someone answered the call. The enemies moved with precision. But they were expecting fear. They weren't prepared for defiance. Jace fired first, shattering a drone midder. The echo drew the squad's attention, and chaos erupted. Jayla leapt from the rocks like a shadow unleashed. Her blade cut through the air, striking with brutal grace. Her armor shimmered and bent light, confusing the enemy. Jace moved behind cover, picking off targets with steady hands. These weren't random shots. Every pull of the trigger counted. Years of battlefield instinct sharpened his aim. They fought as one, without rehearsals, without hesitation. It was like they had always been meant to fight side by side. The enemy pushed harder. Explosives shattered the mountain's edge, spraying dirt and heat across their position. Jace rolled and covered Jayla's flank. She moved like lightning, slicing through armor and vanishing into smoke. Blood marked her path, hers and theirs, but she never slowed. She wasn't just protecting herself anymore. She was fighting for something real. The cube's message still burned in her mind. The girl's voice echoed in her thoughts. Every enemy she struck down brought her closer to the truth she had been denied her whole life. Jace took a hit across his shoulder, sparks flying as his armor absorbed most of it. He grunted but stayed upright. Jayla was already beside him, dropping a smoke grenade to give them cover. "They're circling," she said. Next wave is bigger. Jace nodded, reloading fast. How many? She glanced up. Too many to count. He smiled, even while bleeding. Good. They'll regret sending them. Despite the danger, that moment between them was solid. No fear. Only fire. They stood in the ruins like two warriors against an empire. Then came the sound they didn't want to hear. A heavy sonic boom rippled through the air. Jayla's eyes widened. Orbital drop. High-class enforcer. They sent her. Jace frowned. Her? Jayla didn't blink. Commander Eric's, my former mentor. She trained me. She kills without hesitation, no mercy, no retreat. Jace's hands tightened on his weapon. Guess we'll see if she taught you well enough. The ground shook as a massive figure landed ahead of them. The dust cleared, revealing a tall armored warrior with glowing red eyes and a voice like thunder. Jayla, Eric said, stepping forward. You broke the oath. You disgraced your mark. And now you fight beside him? Jayla stood her ground. I opened my eyes. Eric's raised her blade. Then you'll die with them shut. Before Jayla could move, Eric's launched forward like a missile. Jace stepped between them, intercepting with his rifle. The shot deflected off Eric's armor, but it gave Jayla the moment she needed. Their blades clashed, sparks flew. This was no longer a hunt. It was a duel of beliefs. Jace moved around the edge, distracting the soldiers that followed Eric's. He knew Jayla needed space. She was faster, but Eric's had experience and strength. Their blades sang as they struck and blocked, metal biting against metal. Jayla took a cut across her cheek but didn't fall. She pivoted, dropped low, and slashed across Eric's knee. Eric's roared and kicked her back. Jace shot another guard, then dove to grab Jayla before she hit the rocks. You still with me? He asked. She coughed, nodded, and stood again. Always, she said. Together they turned to face Eric's, who advanced slowly now, favoring one leg, but still burning with power. You can't stop the council, Eric's growled. You're one man and one traitor, Jace pointed to the sky. Then why did you bring an army? Eric snarled and charged again. But this time, they didn't split. They fought together. Jayla ducked low while Jace blasted high. Her blade found weak spots he couldn't reach. His cover fire kept her alive. In seconds, Eric's armor cracked and her stance weakened. Jayla finally swept her to the ground with one spinning strike. Eric's gasped, pinned under Jayla's blade. Finish it, she demanded. End me, Jayla paused. He taught me to follow truth. You just forgot your own lessons. She dropped her blade and turned away. Jace stood beside her, chest heaving. The rest of the soldiers hesitated. Their commander was down, their orders broken, no one moved. For the first time, silence won the battle. Jayla looked at Jace and said only one thing before the mountain lit up with emergency signals from orbit. They're going to send more. But I'm not running. Not anymore. Above the mountain, the clouds cracked open with another flash of light. More ships were coming. Larger, heavier, the kind that carried command ranks and purging fire teams. Jayla stood motionless beside Jace as the smoke cleared around Eric's broken form. The elite commander was still breathing but unconscious. Her defeat would signal chaos to the soldiers who followed her. They wouldn't know whether to continue the mission or retreat. Jace knew this moment was brief, a sliver of calm before the next storm began. They had won one battle, but the war was only beginning. Jayla touched the side of her helmet and pulled it off. Her face was covered in dust and streaked with blood, but her eyes burned with certainty. They'll burn this place, she said quietly. Not because of us, but because of the message we sent. Jace nodded. Then we don't let them erase it. We take it somewhere they can't reach. She raised an eyebrow. Where's that? He pointed to the sky. Off-world. There's a smuggler's port 2 valleys east. I helped build it years ago when the outpost still trusted humans. If we reach it, we might get a ship. Might be our only chance now. They didn't wait. The few soldiers who remained stood down, shocked and leaderless, unsure of the next command. Jace and Jayla didn't speak to them. They moved fast, gathering supplies and stealing one of the light gliders from the dropship. Jayla's fingers danced over the controls, disabling the tracking beacons. "We have 30 minutes before they realize the ship is gone," she said. "Then they'll send death squads." Jace looked up at the smoking sky. "Then we make every second count." The glider took off, streaking across the broken ridge with 2 rebels inside it. The journey was silent except for the hiss of the engine and the crackle of static on the stolen comms. Jayla piloted smoothly, eyes locked forward. Jace sat beside her, patching his shoulder wound and checking ammo. He wasn't thinking about the next fight. He was thinking about what came after. The galaxy had seen too many wars, too many false leaders. And yet, in that stolen moment between chases and explosions, something had shifted. This wasn't just survival anymore. It felt like purpose. The smuggler's port was hidden inside a ravine cloaked by static fields. It wasn't on any map, not even official planetary scans. The gates opened after a short scan of Jace's old ID tag. The guards inside, a mix of outlaw aliens and rogue humans, froze as Jayla stepped out of the glider. Her armor still bore the sigil of the Huntress Guild. Weapons were drawn instantly. Jace raised a hand. "She's not here to hunt. She's with me." No one moved. Then the old dockmaster, a blind reptilian named Aurak, stepped forward and sniffed the air. "Jace Rylan. Still dragging trouble behind you, I see." Jace grinned. "Better than leaving it behind to burn." Aurak nodded slowly and waved the guards down. "You'll want Pad 9. Last ship with a jump drive fast enough to break orbit before they lock the sky. But it's not free." Jayla stepped forward, tossing a pouch of encrypted gems to the dockmaster. "Now it is." Aurak weighed the pouch in one clawed hand and smiled. "You're not what I expected from a huntress." She stared him down. "I'm not what they made me to be." That sentence seemed to quiet even the roughest faces in the port. Pad 9's ship wasn't beautiful. It was rusted, scarred, and barely holding together. But its core was fast, and its pilot was even faster. A one-eyed Corellian named Mazra greeted them with a grin and a cigar in his beak. "You got secrets?" he asked. "Only the dangerous kind," Jace replied. "Then you'll fit right in." Jayla stayed near the hatch while the crew fueled the engines. Her eyes were locked on the entrance to the ravine. "They'll follow us," she said. "Even if we make orbit." Jace looked at her. "Then we don't just run. We make sure everyone hears what's been hidden." She turned to him, confused. "What do you mean?" He lifted the cube from his satchel. "We don't keep this message quiet. We amplify it. We send it to every outer station, every resistance cell, every neutral news stream. If the council wants silence, we give them a storm instead." Jayla hesitated. All her life she had believed silence meant strength. But now, standing beside the man who had changed everything, she realized truth was louder. "Then we go loud," she said, taking his hand and sealing the cube inside the ship's core broadcast drive. The engines roared to life. The port crew scattered as the pad lifted. Jayla stood near the viewing window as the ground fell away, and the mountains became small behind them. She could see smoke rising from the place where she'd once called headquarters. It was no longer her home. It never had been. Her real home was somewhere beyond those clouds, wherever the truth could live. And now, for the first time in her life, she felt free, not because she escaped, but because she chose to break everything she was meant to obey. The ship cut through the sky, faster than the orbiting defense grid could lock on. Warning beacons screamed across the surface, but they were too late. Jayla and Jace had vanished from their reach. And as the jump drive powered up, carrying them toward the stars, the encrypted signal began broadcasting across thousands of hidden channels. The cube's voice, the girl's voice, echoed again and again into the void. And every corner of the galaxy now had to choose, listen or stay blind. The stars blurred into streaks as the ship broke through the final layer of orbit. Jayla stood in the cockpit, her reflection shimmering on the glass as the void swallowed them whole. Behind her, Jace adjusted the comms panel, sending the cubes message through every underground frequency they could access. Resistance signals lit up across multiple systems. Even the old relay stations that had been dark for years blinked to life. The girl's voice echoed far beyond the stars now. What had once been hidden in a hunted man's satchel was now a spark lighting rebellion across the galaxy. The pilot, Mazra, turned from his console. "We've got bites," he rasped. "Some strong ones. I think your little message just made half the galaxy choke on its own lies." Jayla didn't smile, but her eyes glowed brighter. "Good. Let them panic." Jace stepped beside her and rested a hand on her shoulder. "Now comes the hard part, surviving while the truth spreads." She nodded, and giving others a reason to stand up. She wasn't the same cold hunter who had stalked him through the ruins. She was someone reborn from betrayal and fire. Their destination wasn't random. Deep in the asteroid field of Verdun's Belt was an old rebel station known only as Ash Vault. It was once a refuge for soldiers who fought during the border wars and now served as a neutral ground for the forgotten. If there was any place they could build something real, something lasting, it would be there. Jace had fought alongside some of its founders. He hoped at least one of them still lived. Jayla didn't question the plan. She followed because now, for the first time, she wasn't taking orders. She was making choices. When they docked at Ash Vault, the bay doors hissed open to a sea of rust and shadow. The outpost looked abandoned at first glance. Then the lights flickered on, and old faces stepped out of the dark. Veterans, rogues, scientists, and defectors from all corners of space. Some wore ancient armor. Others bore no markings at all. But they all had one thing in common. They had seen too much, lost too much, and yet still stood. Jace raised his hands. "We're not here to hide," he announced. "We're here to build. And we've brought the truth." The message was played again, louder now, broadcast through Ash Vault's central hall. Jayla stood at the front, face uncovered, no longer hiding who she was. Some in the crowd hissed at her insignia. Others stared in disbelief, but no one raised a weapon. She told them the full story, the orders, the lies, the corruption at the heart of the Huntress Guild. Then she stepped back and let the cube speak again. Silence followed, long and deep, until a scarred karate warrior stepped forward and dropped his blaster at her feet. "If she's brave enough to stand here," he said, "then I'll stand with her." That one voice opened the floodgates. One by one, others added their names. A union began to form, not bound by politics or flags, but by shared fury and hope. Ash Vault lit up with life as old systems rebooted. Engineers pulled comms online. Smugglers ran new routes. Warriors cleaned old armor. Plans formed in real time. They wouldn't march in the open yet, but they would spread the message further, push back through whispers and truth. Jayla watched all of it unfold with quiet awe. This wasn't the galaxy she knew. It was better. Later that night, she sat on the edge of the station's observation deck. Jace joined her with 2 mugs of synth tea. "So," he said, handing her one, "still want to kill me?" She took the mug and stared at it. "No, but I still might punch you for smiling when I almost stabbed you," he chuckled. "Fair enough." A moment of silence passed before she added, "You made me see what I never questioned. You made me choose." Jace shook his head. "You chose on your own. You just needed a reason." She looked out at the stars. "Then let's be that reason. For others too." Days turned into weeks. Ash Vault grew. The message reached deep sectors of space. Even inside Zarel itself, Whispers of rebellion stirred. Some high-ranking officials vanished. Others defected quietly. The council tried to erase the message, but it was already too late. Their silence had been shattered. And at the heart of it all was a human who refused to run and a huntress who had turned against everything she was raised to believe. Together, they became symbols. Not of war, but of awakening. One morning, the station received an encrypted message from the girl Jace had once saved. She had made it off-world safely, hiding with another rebel cell. Her voice was stronger now, confident. She thanked them both and said one day she would return to speak openly. Jayla clutched the message tight. "She's alive because of you," she whispered. Jace looked at her. "No, she's alive because of you." They stood together once more, not as hunter and prey, not even as fugitives, but as something new. As leaders of a storm the galaxy could no longer ignore.